I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which this episode is being recorded and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. Welcome to Can I Get a Refill? The podcast that offers a nurturing and inspirational space for honest and open discussions around career aspirations, wealth creation, motherhood, healthy relationships with others and the self, as well as an emphasis on physical, mental, and emotional well-being. Join us for lighthearted, authentic chats with like-minded women, as well as more in-depth discussions with industry professionals to support your ambitions and heal old wounds, as we empower you to regularly fill up your own cup. I'm your host, Steph Bruno-Newton, singer, writer, podcast host, mum, and recovering people pleaser. Thank you for pressing play today, and now let's get into the episode. Hello and welcome back to the Can I Get a Refill podcast. We're talking all things sober curious today with clinical psychologist Silvia Subirana. Silvia, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah, and you're a bit international, we were just discussing. You're from Spain originally and you're in Perth at the moment and just popped into Sydney just for a few days, so we're very lucky to have you in person.
Yeah, I'm very happy to be here, really.
Excellent.
I really enjoy Sydney.
Well, it is beautiful, but you haven't got our greatest weather at the moment, so I do apologise. It's not the right time. But I was just saying I was so close to cancelling today, so I apologise for my tired voice today. My son got his first cold and he was just crying on me all night, so I think my Fitbit said I had 3 hours sleep. But once you start talking, you sort of forget that you're tired and you get into it, but we'll push through. Let's start today, if you can tell us a little bit about yourself and the work you do with MyDry30.
So, as you said, I'm a clinical psychologist. I haven't drunk in the past 6 years, more or less.
Wow.
And at first, those two things were very separate from each other because I didn't really connect them until I started working with MyDry30. I stopped drinking because I had a lot of stomach problems due to stress, anxiety, and other things. And
I hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's just alcohol didn't sit well in my body, so I decided that it was not worth it for me. And I studied psychology. I did my training to become a clinical psychologist and everything. And when I finished that, I wanted to look for something to work on, something that was very motivational for me and that was aligned with my values and how I wanted to live life. So when I found this project, I was like, it's perfect for me because it literally has
marries the two things. Yeah, absolutely.
That I'm passionate about. So
I would normally not ask someone's age, but I'm going to ask you to say your age purely because it's very interesting. You are 27, you just told me, and you stopped drinking 6 years ago. Well, that's 21, and that's when people are deep into the drinking culture. So it's very interesting because I'm 41, so I've stopped drinking since I had my son because I'll get into why that's not working for me. But that makes sense as you get into your 40s. But your 20s, especially in Australian culture, is real peak binge drinking age. So it's very interesting that you came to that. Was yours more the physical, like you didn't feel right in your physical body?
Yes. However, I did have a lot of emotional hangovers when I used to go out and drink. I never really felt the physical effects before having my stomach problems.
Yeah.
After having the stomach problems, it was physical. So it completely changed.
Okay. Because I think it's probably your body's way of saying, hey, this isn't agreeing with me. Because for me, I feel like it's more of a mental health thing. I'm really working on my mental health. And when I was in my 20s and even 30s and even teens, drinking felt fun. Honestly, it felt right for me at that stage. And when people say don't drink when you're young, I was like, that's the only time my body could handle it. Because I just felt like I'd go work the next day and I'd be out all night partying. But, that's a very explorative age when you're in your teens trying to figure out who you are and you've got all this energy. It just does not feel right to me in any way, shape or form now, especially since having my son. I want to wake up really fresh tomorrow. I couldn't imagine going to bed with that dizzy feeling now and having someone crawl all over me. But it's really psychological for me because even in my late 30s, when I sort of stopped partying, it was getting to this place of this isn't fun anymore. And the next day, and my best friend and I, we always talk about the anxiety that kicks in. And a lot of celebrities my exact age, I think it's Anne Hathaway or even Katy Perry, she's a bit younger, were talking, they sort of stopped drinking and they were saying it's that anxiety. So I would either feel depression or anxiety. And I just think, I don't think it's worth it. But it's very hard in this country to find sort of like everyone, when they catch up, drink is part of the culture. And there's also a very, oh, you're lame, you're a bit not fun if you don't drink. And I used to sort of go along with it. And now I'm like, well, that's not lame at all. And hey, that's judgmental. But, you know, in your 40s, you have that voice. But yeah, but definitely for me, it was the mental health. It's just, it's really affected it. And I've started this year of having more of a clean living. Oh, that's what I was going to say. I saw this thing you're too young to have watched Seinfeld, I'm sure, but there was this thing on Instagram where they're like, why does everything go out to a pub or go to an expensive restaurant? Why can't it be like an episode of Seinfeld where you accompany your friends to a dentist appointment? And one of my best friends was like, yes, because she doesn't drink either. And I just feel like, you know, we grew up watching shows where people would do things together or go for coffee and everything's alcohol-based now. And it's not sitting well with me, so I'm finding I'm probably being a little less social. Yeah, it's just part of the culture. Have you found that? But perhaps more so with my generation than your generation.
I do think that different cultures approach drinking alcohol very, very differently. I think in Europe, in general, because obviously each country is different, but in general, there's more that slow drinking, which again,
agree.
For the body is not good anyway, because you are drinking probably the same level of alcohol, the same amount, but just like in more time, right? In like, I don't know, 10 hours instead of doing it in 2. But there's that culture of just sitting down on the table and chatting with friends and having that drink, or like having that wine, that Aperol, that cocktail. Whereas I feel like in Australia and other places like the US or even like the UK, they love going to the pub and just drink, right? And every time that I've traveled to these places, or now that I've been in Australia for a couple of years, I do feel like there's a lot of that. Everything is focused on that drinking. Yeah. And when obviously I don't drink, I'm a bit boring. I always drink water. Like I don't go for like mocktails. Maybe
you
from
wouldn't even
time
accept
to time.
a tea or coffee today. It's just water.
I'm like a plant, and I love water.
Hey, I love plants. Look at my house.
So even like obviously, so I tell people that if they are a bit worried about having like those questions that people ask, why are you not drinking, right? If they're a bit worried about that, if you ask for a mocktail or a lemonade or something like that, it can come across as a cocktail, so people don't ask.
But also, I'm sorry, I'm going to get a bit gruff here, but fuck them. Like, honestly, who needs people around you that make you feel like you have to explain yourself? But years ago I did, and I would, and I remember having a group of friends, I was driving at the time and I was on my P's, so I wasn't drinking, and one put a finger in my face and was like, you better drink with us next time. That is such bullying. I'm actually not friends with that group anymore, and I felt really like I had to come up with an excuse of why I wasn't drinking, and now at this age, I'm just like, it just doesn't feel right to me. Why would you make me have to explain it?
But what I found out is obviously during these 6 years, I've answered that question a lot of times. Yeah. And a lot of people dread that moment because they think, oh my God, everyone's going to point at me. I'm going to be the center of attention as the weirdo, not as a good thing.
You found that they haven't?
No.
They're just curious?
Yeah. A lot of people just ask, I'm like, how have you found going out without drinking? Or what do you do? Or does it sit well, like not drinking? Or they have curious questions. And like 95% of the times, it's people that really want to know about my experience.
That's good. That's good to hear that you've had a good experience with it. It probably lifts some of the fear for people. But also you really can't ask in case someone's pregnant.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Like it's a risky question for a woman. So, yeah. Because that was for me, like I would always have a champagne with friends, and when I was pregnant I was like, oh, everyone's going to ask a lot. Do you think many of us have taken a wrong turn in today's fast-paced society where we're seeking pleasure over true happiness? And if so, what are some ways to identify this and get us back on a healthier path?
So we drink alcohol or use other substances or behaviours to forget a little bit, to numb ourselves from that fast pace, from that stress. Because life right now is so fast. We have so many things in our minds. At the end of the day, you just want to relax. And sometimes without that substance or without that behavior, it's very, very difficult to relax.
Yeah.
So we, I don't know, scroll on social media, binge Netflix.
Everyone has a vice.
Exactly.
For me, it's food. Like, for me, food is my reward to myself and my pleasure. So it's hard for me to not reward myself with, like a nice piece of chocolate or, but everyone's got that one vice that this is what I do if I'm down to make myself feel better or to reward myself. And for a lot of people, it is substance or alcohol, yeah.
And the problem is when you have that dependence, right? When there's a point where you cannot be happy or feel relaxed without that. And
it's dangerous.
Yeah, it's very dangerous. And I think with alcohol, we don't realize when we get to that stage because it's very, very slow.
And also, it's not illegal. I think that's
Exactly.
the other thing. So it's easy if someone's got a cocaine addiction to be like, oh, I identify this as wrong because it's an illegal substance. But alcohol is so applauded and celebrated in culture. So it's hard to say this isn't feeling right or this I have a problem with this.
Yeah, and a lot of drugs like cocaine, as you said, when you get dependent to it, it goes so fast that you can feel the body needing, like craving that. Whereas with alcohol, it's so slow that you don't see the difference because it's very, very, very slow, right? Very distended in the time.
Right.
And then the only way that you will realize is if you look back, I don't know, a year, 2 years.
And I haven't been
behind
able
that
to
before.
not have a drink.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. And what a lot of people say is that they need that to relax, right? Whereas that's pleasure, like that spike of dopamine that you get from drinking is not real, as in you feel it, but it's something that is creating that, right? And you're not feeling happiness. We think that that is happiness because it feels good, but happiness is not linked to that spike of dopamine. It's linked to serotonin, which that is a neurotransmitter that just brings you like more calm, more contentment, right? And the way that we can get more into that is doing stuff that we love doing, that we enjoy, doing it surrounded by the people that we love, right? Connection, that is, I love connection. I love talking about connection because we are in a over-connected world. We're so connected with everyone anywhere in the world, but we feel very alone, very isolated.
It's so interesting. And I think COVID really brought that out.
Yeah.
Of when I've said this a few times in the podcast, I really made friends with people at the post office because I've realised I'm a people person and how much I was lacking that interaction with others. And so I work another job and I'm only in the office once or twice a week, but I will come home and I'm very high spirits because I've connected and the other day, and it's been very busy for a long time, but the other day we all stopped and we were chatting. Actually, we brought up this episode because we were talking about dating. One of the girls is single and we're talking about how hard dating is at the moment. She was saying she read a study that the younger generation's drinking less and that's why it's actually harder to meet people. Mm-hmm. But stopping and having that connection with my friends, I came home feeling like I've had a warm hug. Because, if I work from home a lot, I am lacking that connection. So it's true, it's an over-connected world, but lacking true connection. But I was listening to a finance podcast yesterday and she was talking about we're just such a sort of overstimulated society now that we just seeking that dopamine hit 24/7 by looking at how many people have liked our things, and we're so used to now ordering something from Amazon and it's delivered within a day, ordering your Uber Eats and it's at your door. This didn't happen years ago. So we've sort of lost that living in the moment and seeking pleasure from true things like connection or nature. So, and you realise it when you travel overseas and you see something new of, this is where I feel truly myself. For me, it's nature. Whenever I'm in nature, I feel that true happiness where I don't seek a quick dopamine hit.
Also, we've become extremely impatient.
Yes.
Because if, for example, that Uber Eats, I don't know, is in a jam and takes half an hour longer than you expected.
People lose it.
Yeah, you are so mad. Or you're in a traffic jam, or you are waiting in the shopping centre because there's a queue and you get enraged.
You see people physically huffing and puffing by having to wait. And I think back to the 90s where I'm like, we waited for everything. You stood in line at the post office, you waited for snail mail. And I have worked in customer-facing roles since 1998. I have come back to one after maternity leave and I said, oh, my God, people have changed. People are aggressive and attacking if they don't have an immediate answer. Hey, sometimes you have to wait for things. Like they're in a reasonable amount of time. But yeah, definitely a very impatient society now.
Which also is very demanding, that impatience, right?
Yeah.
Because you cannot be available 24/7, especially like work-wise.
Okay, and I think this is where anxiety comes from because people are wanting to hear from you all the time. We had one house phone growing up. You could take it off the hook if you didn't want to talk to people. And now, you remember when you like live chats and that first started and everyone would do BRB, be right back? Well, no one does it anymore because you're just attached to your phone 24/7. But that's a very stressful, overwhelming feeling for me to feel like I have to answer people all the time.
Yeah, and sometimes, we're attached to our phones, but sometimes something's going on in your life that is stressing you out and you don't feel the energy to respond to messages instantly. You need to take a break, you need to take an hour or two.
And you don't have to explain that either.
Exactly, because it's your time and we, like society, like humans never had to explain, just taking their time.
We don't know what other people have on in their day or their lives. So, no, I totally agree with that. Why this is something I really want to talk about because I've actually gone to hypnotherapy and I really like this sort of area of expertise. Why is the subconscious vital for creating lasting change, and how do tools like hypnotherapy and journaling support this?
So hypnotherapy is a very, very interesting tool because when we want to change something, it takes a long time, especially when it's linked to a substance, because as I said before, it's linked to that dependence, right? That we crave that substance. So what hypnotherapy does is create an easier path, like quote unquote, right? Because you still need to be patient, you still need to work on it, but it just gives you a bit of like a push or like a bit of hope, right? It makes you feel like you see the results a bit faster. Yeah. And in a world where we just want to take a pill and have it all done,
no one wants to do the work.
Exactly. It's a good tool because you see the results quite fast. Okay. So what hypnotherapy essentially does is, a lot of people think of hypnosis as that they
quack like a chicken. Yeah, I gotcha.
But that's completely like wrong. Yeah. So in hypnotherapy, you go into a deep state of relaxation where you are still aware, you're still conscious. Yeah. So if you wanna just quit while you're being in that therapy,
you still have the power.
Yes, you have that power. So you get in that state of deep relaxation where you are more open to suggestions. You are more in touch with your inner self, right? That unconscious part of the mind where all your problems, all that conscious noise just dials down. So in that state, if I'm telling you that you're going to make decisions that are more aligned with your values, then your brain little by little starts going towards there, right? So the way that it works is the neurons, the brain cells that we have, create neural paths, like little paths between them neurons. And if we do something very often, like for example, I go to work, and after I finish work, I drink a glass of wine because I'm stressed, right? That becomes automatic. Yes. Because that path, that neural path between the neurons becomes very, very strong. Because the body wants to...
Because you're not even thinking it. You just do it. You know, like how sometimes you drive to a place and you're like, how did I get here? I don't remember the drive, but I just got in my car and my body took me there. Yeah.
That actually is a hypnotic state because you are in that trance of not thinking what you're doing.
It's a bit scary.
But nothing's like you have automated. Like it's automated. Yeah. So when you have a habit that is automatic, the brain just wants to optimize energy because the brain needs to do so many things in our body that the brain just says, okay, let's reinforce the paths that we do often. The brain doesn't differentiate into good and bad habits. It just says, you do this a lot, I'm going to reinforce that. So it takes the minimum energy possible. Okay. Creating a new habit takes a lot of energy. So the brain has that resistance because it's like, well, we have this alternative that is very easy, very accessible. So what hypnotherapy does is creating that other neural path while we are not aware. So we listen to that hypnotherapy session and little by little, our brain is creating that neural path so we have it more accessible faster, right? So instead of building it from scratch, we are building it without even noticing. So little by little, this new path will have more and more strength, and the other one will lose all that strength that it had. So it eventually will step aside and just like dissolve or become different. So that's how hypnotherapy is a very, very powerful tool for change and to create new habits.
I'm such a huge fan of hypnotherapy. My addiction was more a person addiction. I was in two very unhealthy relationships, and I went in and I said, listen, you know how because he had a lot of clients that he would get off smoking. I go, you know how you get people to quit smoking? Can you do that for me for a relationship? And one I was in was a very violent relationship many, many years ago. And I remember vividly to the point where I could smell the flowers. He took me through my own funeral and me lying. Oh my God, I've got goosebumps. It's so vivid in my subconscious. Me lying in my own coffin and my, loved ones coming saying goodbye to me. And I could smell the flowers from and it was such jolted me into reality, really. And it's all things I knew, but it's funny. It makes sense what you say. Like life is so like loud and automated that you're just on this rat race, this nonstop wheel. And it's when you stop and you're silent, things sort of, even if it's not with hypnotherapy, even if it's just me meditating, it's when I find my true self and you find the answers, they're always within you, aren't they? Mm-hmm. The answers, it's that additional support, as you said, to bring it out. So I'm a very huge fan of hypnotherapy. Why do you think change, I think you probably just touched on it, but why do you think change is so intimidating even when it's beneficial, and how can we overcome this fear to embrace personal growth? But like you said, it's easier, right? Less energy for the brain.
It's easier and also change is scary. It's
the unknown is scary.
Exactly. Because even if we know that alcohol has a bad impact in our health, we don't know what's on the other side.
Yeah.
So we prefer just sticking to what we're doing now instead of just doing something different, because what if what we're doing next is bad?
It's the familiar. There's that study, everyone talks about it, where people repeat what's familiar to them. So say you grew up in a violent household, you might go into a violent relationship because it's familiar. Even though on an intelligent level it's not healthy, but it feels familiar, and sometimes familiar feels like a cozy blanket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically change is inevitable. So even if we are terrified and we want to stay the way that we are right now.
Tough shit.
Exactly.
Right? It's going to change on you regardless.
The world changes constantly and you cannot control it. Even if you really want to control it, you cannot. And even if you don't do active change, everything around you changes and you change. Because how many times have we, like if you think about how you were 5 years ago, you're like, oh my God, I'm a completely different person. But have you actively looked for that change? Sometimes we have, but sometimes we haven't, right? And it's just our circumstances and the situations that we've been in have shaped us, right? Yeah. So just resisting that change is not letting you grow. It's not letting you become the person that you want to be, because you are just stuck in something that is not real. Yeah. Because even if you think that you're not changing, you are.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't remember who said the quote, but don't be like the oak that stands tall and proud in the wind and like splits in the wind. Be like the reed that's nimble and moves with change. So that's something I always try to visualize, because I am a Cancerian who hates change. So it's very, very hard. But I push myself, but it's always scary, and no one likes feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah,
you resist and you resist and you resist. But then in the long run, something like an alcohol dependency is making you more uncomfortable. So you're better off doing the short-term uncomfortable to get to more comfortable. Avoiding alcohol for 30 days can be manageable, but what would be your advice for sustaining the progress long-term?
One thing that I like to tell my patients and the people that I help is something that you said just like 5 minutes ago. I love asking people to just sit down with themselves and look at what's happening in their bodies. We go fast. And we, as you said, we have, a lot of the times we have the answers within ourselves. Yeah. But we don't take the time to listen.
Do they cry?
A lot of people do.
Louise Hay used to talk about mirror work and like talking to yourself in the mirror. 9 times out of 10, you will cry doing that work. It's like you're confronting something, or like the hurt little kid within you. It's very powerful, confronting that part of you.
Yeah, so for me, having that as a tool, as in being able to stop and acknowledge how you're feeling, is very, very powerful. Not only like having 5 minutes or 10 minutes a day, but also, for example, when you have that craving, when you want that drink, you're like, okay, stop a second.
Yeah.
Do you want that drink because you feel like you're in the mood for alcohol?
Yeah.
Or is it because you are stressed? Or is it because you feel the pressure?
Using it as a tool.
Exactly. And then a lot of people realize that they don't really want it. They just feel that pressure, that stress. They just want to numb their brains.
Yeah.
And then when they stop and realize that, I'm like, okay, now you have the power because you have the knowledge. So with that, you can choose to do something different. You can go for a walk in a forest, or like if you live close to the countryside, or you can go for a run, or you can cook if you like cooking, or you can do
Call
whatever.
a friend.
Exactly.
Read a book. Yeah.
Whatever that brings you joy and that makes you feel connected with yourself is key in that moment, because that's going to break the cycle. And the more you break that cycle, the less your brain is going to go to that like craving, right?
Yeah,
and
that
as you
makes sense.
said, it's short-term uncomfortable because it is, especially the cravings can be very, very strong.
Yeah.
But in the long term, it helps so much.
Yeah. I just realised that we didn't really explain the MyDry30 app. Can you just touch on what that is?
So we are creating, MyDry30 is creating the unconscious moderation program, which basically we're focusing on 3 months, right? The program is 3 months. We encourage people to not drink during the first month. And then after that first month, they can decide if they want to drink again or not drink again.
That's good, because then it doesn't feel like a scary long-term commitment to them. Yeah, okay.
Exactly.
That's great.
And that 30-day reset really, really helps your body just like have a little bit of a kick, right? You start to sleep a bit better and your blood pressure goes down. So your body feels that, like those benefits, right? So even if you just stop drinking for 30 days, that has a huge impact on the body.
Yeah.
So we encourage that without obviously blaming anybody if they choose to drink again. But again, the way that we do it is choose moderation. Don't go back to your old habits.
Yes.
Drink when you feel like you want to drink, when you're in the mood for a drink, not when you're hiding something or you're doing it out of pressure, right?
And are you big on forgiveness of the self if they fall and do something? Do you encourage them to just let it go?
So when someone, for example, has a drink on day, I don't know, 10, 13, 20, like it doesn't matter. We say just keep going, because even if you have that, like you slip up 1 day or 2 days or even 3 days,
it's not changing your whole life.
Exactly. Yes. And you are drinking less than what you used to.
Yes.
So that's a win.
Do you know, I used to do when I used to work multiple jobs, I used to do a nighttime job where I would moderate comments on a Facebook group, and it was the Total Wellbeing Diet. I don't know if you've heard of it, through the CSIRO. It's a great diet because it's really just a whole food diet. It's not too restrictive, but they would allow them to have occasional chocolate or sugar, or that was sort of the bad category, but you could have it occasionally. But women especially, and older women, would get on there and really just verbally bash themselves if they had a big meal thing. And the advice I would give them, and what the other support people would say, was, it's not going to change your whole life by having one big meal. Like, tomorrow is a brand new day. It doesn't change your whole body shape by that one thing. So just forgive yourself and move on. And it's sort of, and what I noticed with that was people were doing it for health reasons. They might have been diabetic or obese, and they were really losing massive amounts of weight, but they were keeping it off because it was one of those diets where you could maintain it. It wasn't like restrictive of just drink shakes. And it sounds like this MyDry30 is the same sort of thing. You're not going in like, bam, drop it straight away, you'll never do it again. It's sort of, you're in control. Try this for 30 days and you might feel better that you choose. And I would see these people choosing not to have the unhealthy food option. They would actively choose the healthier food option because they liked how their body felt when they ate healthier. And it's the same thing with drinking. I like how my body feels. I like how my mental health is stronger when I'm not, But do you know what I find it can do? We sort of touched on this in the beginning. It can be a bit of a loneliness, or you might feel a bit left out. So my husband's 6 years younger than me. So I'm 41, he's 35. He's still very much, since we've had a son, obviously not frequently, but he loves a drink with his friends. But his drinking sessions will be like 7 to 12 hours. And I've noted, and we never fought for a decade. We've been together 10 years this July. And all of a sudden, because I used to party with him, and all of a sudden when I'm not, I'm noticing a bit of friction, and I'm saying, our values feel a little bit misaligned. And he's saying, well, no, they're not. But they are a bit, because I'm like, wouldn't you rather wake up early and play with your son, or like come and play? Like, I just feel like, but I'm also not about telling someone what to do, because when I was 35, I was still drinking. But yeah, it's really hard if you're around people who are not on the same path, isn't it? Like, if they're not doing the same thing, you could feel maybe you're a bit left out, or you're the stick in the mud that's holding people back.
Yeah, but I believe it's also like a change of mindset in general, as in, yes, maybe you are not drinking, but in the end, everyone lives their lives the way they want. So,
and I went through the childbirth physically, and he didn't. So I feel like that's also changed, and the way a mother feels with her child. I feel physical pain when he cries. He doesn't, even though he's the most amazing dad. It's different for me. Yeah. So my taste in life and my values have just totally shifted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and little by little, as you said, like 6 years ago, you were that person.
Like 2 years ago, I was. Yeah.
So little by little, everything changes, right?
Yeah,
and everything just falls into place. So people just need to reevaluate their priorities and their goals from time to time. I always encourage people to sit down with themselves and think, how do I want to live my life? Because we live as life was like forever, right? We're going to live forever, but we don't have that certainty that we're going to live until we're 80 or 90.
Yeah.
We can die tomorrow.
Yeah,
right?
you can get hit by a bus. You just don't know.
Exactly.
Knock on wood. We're European. We're superstitious.
Let's hope not. But like you never know, right?
Yeah.
So
nothing's guaranteed.
Yeah. So sitting down with yourself and acknowledging how you want to live life and how you want to spend your time is extremely, extrememy powerful.
It is. And I'm finding a whole new world out there away from the very loud lifestyle, and I've just stripped back, and I'm just enjoying the simple things that I swear I never thought I would. Like years ago, I would have thought that was boring, but it's just such a more interesting world to me now without having
definitely
massive amounts of drink. Yeah.
As well, like for example, when I stopped drinking when I was 21, of course, like I was still going out a lot with my friends and doing everything. Like I had a bit of FOMO, so I had to be everywhere, right?
Yeah, of course.
Classic when in your early 20s, especially. I was everywhere, and I was completely sober. I would drive everyone home, right? Like I would make sure that all my friends got home safe.
Yeah.
And it is possible to do it. You just have to, again, shift your mentality, understand that you're not more fun for drinking alcohol, you're less fun.
No, but if you're hanging out with drunk people, the conversations aren't matching. That's the problem, because I remember I have a great group of friends from high school still, decades later. We all look the same with a few extra grey hairs, but we used to, before we turned 18, we were always at restaurants. We were always going to the movies, and I feel like the conversations were on a better, deeper level than if I'm out like with my husband's friends at some loud place where everything's so loud and drinking. And I'm like, I don't feel like I'm connecting with anyone here tonight. I would rather like a restaurant where I'm still drinking wine, but I'm having deeper conversations and connections with people. It just feels more valuable to me, because you're not catching up with your friends as frequently in your 40s with kids as you were when you were younger. So I really want to savor the moment and make it a real connection.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that I had to learn, in which situations I want to put myself in and which situations I don't want to put myself in. Because going to a pub for 4 hours and just sitting down on a table where everybody's drunk and having silly conversations, I was like,
that is for a walk along the water.
Exactly. It's so pointless, right? But I love dancing. I've danced all my life.
Same.
So maybe just going out dancing with my friends, even if they're drunk and I'm not, I didn't really care, because I was having fun with them, right? Doing
dancing is contagious, that energy. You can do that whether you're sober or not.
Exactly.
100%.
Or like going for a barbecue where everybody's just like playing games and stuff. If they're drunk and you're not, you don't feel that much of a difference. So I learned a lot about what situations I wanted to put myself in and how I wanted to spend my time.
Choice. Yeah, that's probably because you got to know yourself. Yeah, that's when you know what you enjoy. For me, it was being pregnant, because I was like, oh my God, how am I going to be out at things and not drinking? And I was like, oh, I can still have fun. I actually, went to like a 40th birthday and was not drinking. And I'm like, I'm still connecting with people. So that was probably the clincher for me of, I can do this. I did it for 9 months. So I've often referenced shame as being the hardest emotion to deal with or scrub off your skin. Why is shame such a threat to our self-esteem, and what can we do to combat that?
One very, very important difference is between shame and guilt. Because we think that they're synonyms, but they're not.
They're not.
They're very, very, very different. There's Dr. Brené Brown.
Oh my God!
I love her.
I was just going to wait for you to stop talking to quote her.
I love her.
Are you going to do the one with her daughter?
go on.
Okay. Well, this is how I learned that, shame is I am a fuck up. Guilt is I fucked up.
Exactly.
Sorry for all the swearing. I'm underslept. And she talked about her daughter, who's grown up now, but when she was little, the teacher called her and she said, I know what you do for a living, because she deals with shame. And she said, why? What does she do? The teacher said to the daughter, Ellen, you're such a mess, because she had the glitter everywhere. And the daughter, 6 years old, turned to her and said, I may have made a mess, but I am not messy. I just love that distinction between, you're taking it on yourself like I've stuffed up, or I am like a failure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and shame, it's a scary place to be in.
Yeah, and it's an attack to your self-esteem. And if you keep telling yourself those messages, like, instead of I made a mistake, I am a failure.
Yes.
Even if it seems very similar, but it's it has such a different impact in yourself, because I'm a failure. It just cuts deep.
Yes.
And you're repeating yourself, I'm a failure, I'm not enough, I cannot do this.
It's conditioning yourself, because I'm big on manifestation, and everything in your life you've manifested through thoughts and words. So if you're telling yourself you're no good, you're a failure, you will become that. You'll embody that.
Exactly, because the world is not objective. We don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are and as we think, right? So if we keep repeating ourselves those negative messages about how bad we are, right? Like, we are a failure, we are not enough, and all these things, we believe that, and we embrace the world with that rock in your bag.
Well, have you found with your work that that's a common thread for people with drinking? Okay.
Yeah, because they feel like drinking when they were trying to stop, it's because they're a failure. Right?
Yeah.
And again, as I said before, it's not. It's part of the process. You're going to slip up. You're going to make mistakes.
We're not
and
perfect.
That's fine. Exactly.
We're not.
Everybody makes mistakes.
Computers, exactly. Even computers stuff up.
Exactly.
So part of the work would be what you were talking about before, right? Sort of getting to know the self. Hypnotherapy is part of it. So sort of breaking that mentality
and transforming that shame into guilt, because
Okay.
guilt can be used as a tool.
Okay, so guilt is okay.
Exactly.
It's identifying an action. Yeah,
exactly.
Makes sense.
So, for example, you have a drink when you were doing that 30-day break. You have a drink on day 10. Instead of saying, I am a failure, you tell yourself, I made a mistake.
Yeah.
Instead of getting into that negative spiral of, I am a failure, I'm not going to be able to do this and all this, you say, I made a mistake. But I'm acknowledging that mistake, and I don't want to feel like this again.
Yes.
So I'm going to use it in the future when I have that craving.
It's
and I'm
taking
going to remember
the power back.
Exactly.
Yes.
I'm going to remember how I felt.
Yes.
And I'm going to say, I don't want this. So it's giving you that power.
I love that.
To make a choice.
Shame might be like, well, I've already stuffed up. I might as well keep drinking.
Exactly.
Yes. Oh, you really just simplified it. It made so much sense in my brain. Yeah, I love that. That's all been so helpful. I want to end with asking you a question about yourself. If you met your 18-year-old self today, what would you tell her? And I know you're still young, but I feel like you've learned a lot in the last decade.
Yeah, I really have. I would tell myself to take things easy, to relax. Life, I used to take life very, very seriously, and I still sometimes do. I'm still learning, but just things pass, and things that I used to worry a lot about, I don't even remember now.
Yes, oh my gosh. Every time I'm going through the biggest drama at work or something, I'm like, in 5 years, will I even remember that this day happened? Yeah, that's so true.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's good to acknowledge all of our emotions and understand when we're sad or when we're worried and all that. But just getting into that spiral of overthinking and just that anxiety is not good.
We all do it, don't we?
Exactly. It's not good. So I would tell myself to just chill.
Honestly, if we treated ourselves like we treated our best friends, it'd be a much healthier world. We really all go so hard on ourselves. I think it's something we've just been conditioned. I find that women do it more so, but that's just my take. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you, especially making the trip in. But that's also valuable for people who are curious or not curious, even delving into the shame and the subconscious things. So really wonderful. Thank you so much for your time today. And everyone, please do something in the next week to fill up your cup. There is no resource more valuable than time, and I thank you for spending your time with us today. Your voice is so important, and we would love to hear which topics you would like discussed in future episodes. Please reach out by Instagram at Can I Get a Refill Podcast, or on our private Facebook group to let us know. If you enjoyed this or previous episodes, we would be so grateful if you could please subscribe, rate, and review to help our voices continue to be heard. Catch you in the next episode.